Hi, it's Nick from Greywing, and I had a conversation the other day with a potential customer who was looking at Ocean Oracle to give to their crew to help them read documentation. And I think they were super into it. But when they went back and spoke to the team internally, what people said was actually, we're going to have Microsoft Copilot. So when Copilot comes in, it's going to do all of this. And I think this is what I want to get into on this call, that generative AI is such an early space that actually it's sometimes hard to find real innovation within large organizations, because whilst there's a lot of stuff that they are doing, there may be other things that they haven't quite caught up to yet. And it's actually very likely that smaller organizations like Greywing are going to be able to innovate in specific niche areas at a much higher velocity than larger companies. And I'm going to show you how. So what I've done is I've set up the Great Info Fetch Fest. So we're going to do a side-by-side comparison of Greywing's Ocean Oracle and Microsoft's Copilot to gauge which platform is better at extracting data or enabling you to have a conversation with a complex document like a machinery operations manual for an LNG carrier. So I've actually got some questions that came from a customer. So I've not chosen these questions. They're completely not random. The customer chose them, but they're specific to LNG vessels. So I say the scores are both 0. Let's put these questions one by one into each of these tools and see what comes up. So the first one I've got is, how much diesel storage capacity do we have? So if I come into CGPT, how much diesel storage capacity do we have? So one thing about CGPT, and I'm sure Microsoft will catch up on this, is you can actually just talk to it, which makes life a lot easier. And then I can copy this and put it into Copilot. And then let's see what comes up. So I've already put the manual into Copilot, and I've said, can I query the manual? It said, yeah, of course. And now we're asking the question. Okay, so it can't find any information on that. And they are looking at exactly the same document. Let's go back and see how Greywing's getting on. Okay, this is interesting, actually. So it says that it doesn't provide any direct information about diesel storage capacity. So it's also seen that there's nothing obvious about diesel storage capacity. But what's likely is it's going to look through all of the information. Now, what Microsoft can't do is Copilot's unable to look at complex diagrams, schematics, and P&IDs and pull out data points from complex visuals like the ones that you can see here. But what Greywing can do is it can actually ingest these complex schematics, and then it can pull out that kind of information. So brilliant. We've got a good answer here. So I've got to be honest, when I look at Microsoft, they couldn't find any specific information, but Greywing was able to. And it's because we've got a different methodology around how we solve the same problem of extracting data from complex documentation. So I'm going to give Greywing 1 point for this. And let's move to the next question. What make is the main engine air cooler? Obvious question, I suppose. If you've got to repair your car, I mean, I've never had to repair an LNG vessel, then I would probably need to find out what the air cooler make was. So I'll just cut and paste this and put it into Copilot and see what comes up. Okay, so I can see Greywing's reading the document, and it's already given me an answer saying it's Alpha Laval. So I think, broadly speaking, the reason that Greywing's able to extract this data is it reads the document in the same way or the same logic that a human would use. It'll look at different items within the document and then navigate between those data points to reach a conclusion. Whereas typically what we see from other retrieval augmented generation products is that they will just look, and if they can't find the specific answer written in that direct format of this is the name of this main engine air cooler, then they won't be able to give that response. Okay, so Greywing has given us the answer. Copilot hasn't been able to, so I'm going to give Greywing another point. And then what's the next question? What is the capacity of the boiler water circulation pump? Okay, so let's see what comes up here. Okay, so again, this information could be in the text, but it could also be in one of these complex diagrams. So if it's in a complex diagram or schematic, Copilot's not going to be able to find it unless it's a very obvious title. Okay, so we've got a breakdown here of the different items. It's also clarifying that. And then if I look at Copilot, it's not been able to find any of this information. Okay, so Greywing's given us a qualified answer. And then it's also referenced the page numbers so that I can go through and look at it myself. And actually, if I want to look at the page numbers, I can see the page numbers are right here, and there's 15 pages that are relevant to this answer. So I could just navigate through them and look at the data points that Ocean Oracle had already been picking up. So I think that's another point to Greywing. Show me the drawing of the fuel supply system. So let's see what comes up. And these are actually incredibly fair questions because the customer we were working with, I'm clearly not using their data to test this out. So they're not actually really specific to the documents that I'm looking at, aside from the fact that these are questions specifically for LNG vessels. So I've asked that question. I need to put it into Copilot. So again, Greywing's reading through, pulling up different data points. Okay, so it's giving me a page number, and for the fuel oil service system for generator engines. Brilliant. Let's see how Copilot's doing. Seems to not be 100% on the context of what we're talking about. So I've asked it to answer the question. Okay, so it can't see it. So grammatically, this isn't correct, but it's how the customer asked it. So I'm going to use the same sentence structure. How long time does it take to gas free the ship? Okay, so I suppose if some of the questions we've been asking as we've gone along have been more, give me this data point, it's asking for a single item of information. What we're now asking is for Ocean Oracle and Copilot to read the document, ingest the information, and reflect back to us on the core steps that we need to take to run a certain process or procedure or standard operating procedure. So Greywing's running through that. So Copilot didn't come back, and I think I forgot to award points on the last round, so I'm just going to give them Greywing another point. But because I'm running out of time, I've actually got a meeting in 21 minutes I've got to be at. I'm going to push in another question to Copilot to just move it along faster so I'm not late. Okay, so what I like about this is Greywing couldn't initially find the answer, but it's gone back into the document to apply different context and to learn from what it found out during its initial answer to help it get to a endpoint on this decision. So in the same way that you might read the document and think, okay, I've not quite found the answer, but you've got a better idea of how to go back into that document and navigate it to get to the endpoint, the generative AI and the structure of Greywing will also do the same thing. Okay, it's still generating the answer, and so that this is a fair test, I want to wait for it to get to an endpoint. even though it might take a bit longer. So you can see how it's taken in the data, and then it said, okay, we haven't found these details, but I am learning about these logic points, which might help direct me to a better decision or outcome on this. And then it's then saying, okay, so based on the information that I've now found, this is how I'm then going to reread the document and look for different data points to arrive at an answer. So let's have a look at the Kongsberg. Okay, so this is good. And to be honest, I'm grateful that Copilot came back with some answers, because if they didn't come back with anything, it would look like I was really trying to create an unfair test. But basically, we've put both documents into each system. We've asked the questions, and this is the honest data that's coming back. And if anyone wanted to send us, their manual, and to do a kind of public test on this, then we'd be completely cool with that. If there was maybe a media organization out there that wanted to put us to the test, then let's roll the dice and see where they fall. So it's given me a list of alarms. I'm just going to say ideally I want it to give me a list of alarms so that I can work out exactly how many there are, and then I can run the same question through Graywing. So I suppose depending on how you look at this, Graywing's taking a bit longer to give you an answer, but I think that's because there's a lot more heavy lifting going on in the background. If we go back to the origins of this question, we asked a question. It got to a point where it understood some of the answer, but needed to go back in and clarify. It then did that a second time, and then it's now done it a third time. So I've asked one question, but then Ocean Oracle's taken that data in, done research, and then begun asking itself questions that it needs to answer so that it can get to a rational conclusion. And then it's given me a further breakdown. But I think, to be honest, this is a great example from a user's perspective of how thoroughly artificial intelligence can gather information and solve the problems that otherwise you might have to solve. Because if it's taking Graywing this amount of time to resolve this question, imagine how much time it would take someone who was reading a 3, 4, 5, 600-page manual to reach the same conclusion. This is something that you could set up. It can be running in the background, and then you can have concurrent activity going on. So instead of you spending your time on researching the relevant parts of the manual, you can set up Ocean Oracle to do that. And then you can use that time that you're saving to pursue whatever else you like. Okay, so we've got 9 Kongsberg alarm panels. I'm just going to finish off the questions. Whilst we wait for Ocean Oracle to get to an endpoint. you can hear my meeting thing going off. I'm going to have to run in a second because I've got 15 minutes to be at a meeting and I don't want to be late. Okay, so they couldn't find the brand names on the safety valves, but they did list out some valves, so I'll give them that. And then they listed out some of the Kongsberg alarm panels. Luckily, this guy's going to be late as well, so maybe it'll all work out. Um, Okay, so this is interesting. It's run through all of the data, and it's come back and said, okay, the exact time to gas free the ship is not provided in the collected facts. What it does do is it's gone through and isolated all of the specifics for the different sequences, where it's giving a endpoint on the time for each of these um, processes that has to take place to gas free the ship. So I'd say it's not given us a time. It said that detail is not in the manual. And then if I look at what came out when we spoke to Copilot, it couldn't find anything about the time it takes to gas free the ship. Whereas I'd say the exact time's not provided according to Ocean Oracle. But what it does give me is it gives me a really clear breakdown and a reference to the pages of different sequences and processes in terms of how long they take. So I'm tempted to give this to Greywing because you can see how much more context it's given me to answer this question. But I think because we've got to be fair and say it's not given us a correct answer to a binary question, I'm not going to award anyone points for this question. Okay, what have we got next? How many Kongsberg alarm panels do I have on board, and can you list them out in terms of their location? And can you also number how many we have? So give me a list of 1, 2, 3 with location and type of panel. Okay, so I've asked it a question to catch up with Copilot on the Kongsberg alarm panel. So if we come back here, okay, we've got a list of 9, and then it's referencing the different numbers of the panels, I believe. And then Greywing's going out, doing the same research. Okay, you can actually see it's pulling up all of these details. So it's finding these details in different locations, which is fascinating to me. And you can see where there's an image here that it's actually looked at a diagram or looked at an image and then pulled that information back in. Where there isn't an image, like at number 1, it means it's read the text. Okay, so it's given me a total of 15 Kongsberg alarm panels. I think as Copilot's only given me 9. I'm going to give this one to Greywing because I think that it's okay. It's given me 17. It's given me a better answer, a more accurate answer. So I think that's a fair one. And I've got one final question actually. What safety valves do we have? Okay, so I asked this question of Copilot. Here we are. And then I tried to clarify it. asking for brand names. So I think I just need to add 1 point to Grey Wing. But we're coming towards the end. I've got about 10 minutes to move 800 meters to my next coffee meeting. So Marcel, if you're waiting, I apologize. Okay, brilliant. Can you list them out and also give me their brand names, ideally, so I know how many there are, what type of safety valve it is, and what the brand name is, if you have that data. Okay, so I've asked it basically for what I asked Copilot. Copilot couldn't give me any brand name data, and maybe that'll be the same for Grey Wing. And I'll ask for a list. Okay, so I mean, to be fair, Grey Wing's giving me valve details, and then it's also giving me the maker as well, or the make of valve, which is, I think, a key part of the question. Copilot's given me some information, but it's just told me the types of valves that we have on board. It's not given me anything else. Let's see what the final answer is from Grey Wing, and then we can wrap this up. So whilst Ocean Oracle's running through the final part of this, I think this is really the demonstration that I wanted to put together, because we've built a product that really is critical to any business that's using complex diagrams or schematics or any documentation that runs into hundreds or thousands of pages from a manual's perspective. So I think one of the things that I think we've all experienced with generative AI is a dislocation of expectations. So when we use generative AI and we come in, we have these huge expectations about what it's going to be able to deliver. And it's easy for us, it's easy for other technology providers, including large companies, to oversell what AI can do and what it can really deliver. And I see people, they do these demonstrations, they take in large shipping companies, and bring them in and kind of educate them on what AI can do. But I think you've really got to get down to the heart of, okay, what's my expectation and what's going to get delivered on day one. And I think the challenge of working in technology is, on the one hand, selling the customer the future of where they can go to, whilst mapping that back down to the reality of what you can give them today. And what we can give you today in terms of ingesting, reading, and having a conversation with complex diagrams is the ability to take any document, no matter how many pages long, with complex schematics, diagrams, P&IDs. You can drop it in, you can have a conversation with it, and you can turn it into a living document that you can pull data from. And just to look at the final question that we got down to. Okay, so Grey Wing's still going. Yeah, so I'd say if you're buying Copilot, hoping that it's going to solve all of these problems and be able to reach parity, certainly, at least with this narrow solution that we deliver, then it's probably not going to be able to do that. But that's not to say that it's not great for a million other things that Grey Wing doesn't facilitate. But I don't think Copilot or other standard products, perhaps including GPT or ChatGPT, are going to be a technology panacea for all ills. They're going to cover a broad section of use cases, but where you've got high value, complex niche requirements like the ones that we're solving specifically for our customers in maritime, you're going to be able to find a high level of performance and a higher level of tailored access to the solutions that you're looking for. Okay, so because I've got to run, I'm just not going to give Grey Wing the point for this. Maybe it'll get to an endpoint, maybe it won't. But what I'll do is I'll just turn the camera off, walk away, and then once I'm done, I can speed up this part of the video and we can see what Grey Wing eventually came up with. So have an awesome day. Thank you for taking the time to watch this video. And if you've got any questions about how we're different to other products that are out there, feel free to reach out. I'd love to have a chat. Oh, good news. Grey Wing came through. All right. I'm taking a step back and I'm going to give us that point. Cool. The Great Info Fetch Fest. Take care. Have a good day.